So, we're in the middle of this massive push for clean energy, right? But underneath it all, there's this hidden challenge, a kind of communication breakdown that could honestly stop the whole thing dead in its tracks. To fix it, we literally have to teach our power grid to speak a brand new language.
You know, for 100 years, the grid was pretty simple. You had these huge power plants sending electricity one way, to our homes. Easy. But today, power is coming from everywhere. Solar panels on our roofs, giant wind turbines, batteries in our communities, and yeah, even the EV charging in your garage. Our grid isn't a simple highway anymore. It's turning into this incredibly complex, bustling ecosystem.
So, the big question is, how do we manage all this new complexity? Well, in this explainer, we're going to walk through the whole story, from the problem right to the solution. We'll start with the grid's new two-way conversation, get clear on the big goal of interoperability, see how the rulebook for this new language gets written, check out how those rules actually become reality, and then finally, we'll look at the smarter, cleaner energy future that all of this hard work unlocks.
All right, so let's dive into the most fundamental shift here. The very way that electricity and information move around has been totally turned on its head.
The old grid was really just a monologue. A huge power plant would speak, and all of us would just listen by using that power. It was a simple one-way street. But the new grid, with all these distributed energy resources, we call them DERs, it's a real two-way conversation. Your solar panels can push power back to the grid, your electric car can be told to charge when power is cheap. It's this dynamic, multi-directional dialogue happening all the time.
And that, right there, brings us to the core problem. Just imagine this. You've got a solar inverter from one company, a battery from another, and the utilities control system from a third, all basically shouting at each other in their own private languages. What do you get? A digital Tower of Babel. It's total chaos. The conversation breaks down before it even has a chance to start.
So, to solve all that chaos, the entire industry is zeroing in on one critical goal. We need to create a kind of universal translator so that every single device can speak the same language, and that goal has a name: interoperability. And this comparison just illustrates perfectly why this matters so much. Okay, look at the picture on the left. That's the old grid's communication map. A few clean, simple lines. Got it? Now look at the right. That spaghetti monster of a web, that's the modern grid. The complexity hasn't just gone up a little, it has absolutely exploded. Every single one of those tangled lines is a conversation that has to happen flawlessly. Without a common language, that whole web just falls apart. So what exactly is interoperability? Well, it's not just about two devices being able to, hear each other. It's about them being able to actually understand each other and then act on that understanding, safely and effectively. It's the difference between just hearing noise and having a real, meaningful conversation. This is the universal language we have to build.
So, if we need a universal language, somebody has to write the dictionary and the grammar rules, right? In the energy world, that's done through things called technical standards. Let's take a look at how this rulebook is actually built.
There are two major rulebooks in play here. Think of IEEE 1547 as the How to Connect standard. It's kind of like the rule for what kind of plug you can use in a wall outlet. It has to fit right, and it has to be safe so you don't start a fire. It's the basic physical rules of engagement. Then you've got standards like IEC 618050. This is the How to Communicate standard. This is the actual language that's spoken over that connection. The vocabulary, the grammar, the whole shebang.
And hey, this isn't just some abstract theory. California's amazing Rule 21 really put this to the test. They mandated that all new residential clean energy systems had to be able to talk to the utility. So all of a sudden, they had to pick one single specific language from the rulebook for absolutely everyone to use.
In the end, they chose a protocol called IEEE 2030.5. And the reason they chose it over the more established IEC 61850 is a really pivotal moment for the industry. Look at that key strength on the table: built-in device discovery and registration. This means it was designed more like the internet. When you plug in a new device, it just automatically announces itself like, "Hey, I'm here." When you're trying to manage millions of residential devices, that simple plug-and-play feature is an absolute game changer. It really set a precedent for a more modern, flexible internet-style grid.
Okay, so having a rulebook is one thing, but making sure that millions of devices from hundreds of different manufacturers all actually follow those rules correctly and, this is key, safely? Well, that's a completely different challenge. And that's where testing and certification come in.
This diagram shows you exactly what happens when you don't have a clear plan. It's a digital mess. You've got all these different pieces of hardware, different communication protocols, different information models, all trying to work together. A broad standard like IEEE 1547 gives manufacturers options, which is good. But for things to actually work together in the real world, you have to narrow those options down.
So the crucial takeaway is this three-step process. First, you start with the broad standard. Then, a state or a utility creates a specific interoperability profile, just like California did with Rule 21, which basically says, okay, of all the options in the big rulebook, we are only going to use these specific ones. And finally, products have to be sent to authorized labs to be tested and certified that they meet that exact profile. That is how you get from chaos to order. But here's the catch. With every new connection, every new conversation, we're opening a new door. This incredible network also creates a massive new surface for attacks. I mean, look at this spaghetti diagram again. It's not just a map of communication anymore, it's a map of vulnerabilities. Every single one of those lines is a potential entry point for a hacker. One unlocked door could put the whole system at risk.
So how on earth do you defend a network this complex? The industry turns to frameworks like this one from NIST. Think of it like a cybersecurity battle plan, a continuous cycle of defense. First, you identify your critical systems. You got to know what you need to protect. Then, you protect them with layers of security. But you have to assume you might get breached, so you have systems to detect an intrusion the second it happens. Then you have a plan ready to respond and contain the damage. And finally, you have to be able to recover quickly. It's a proactive strategy for a world full of constant threats.
So after all this work, defining languages, creating profiles, certifying devices, securing networks, what's the payoff? Why does any of this matter so much?
Just let this number sink in. Back in 2018, the U.S. generated nearly 3 times more electricity from solar than from oil. This isn't some far-off future projection, folks. This is a massive energy transition that is happening right now. Getting this communication piece right is what lets us manage this new reality.
And the benefits are huge. A grid that can talk to itself is more resilient, it can intelligently reroute power and coordinate resources to stop outages before they happen. It's more efficient, cutting waste and saving money. It's more flexible, which lets us bring huge amounts of renewables like wind and solar online. And maybe most importantly, it becomes a platform for innovation, creating an entirely new ecosystem of energy services that we are just starting to imagine. Ultimately, what we're doing here is building the Internet of Energy, a standardized, open, communicative platform. The last time we humans built something like this, we got the World Wide Web and, everything that came with it. So the final question isn't just about managing electrons anymore. It's about what incredible things we will build on this new foundation. What will we build with it?